3D films look so gorgeous and fluid, but games always seem to be just a little blocky in comparison? Turns out they're two very different worlds. They're almost polar opposites to one another, and since we're all here at a media institute, I figure we're most likely going to be working with one or the other in our future careers. So I've been discovering just what it is that separates them since I started here at Full Sail 22 months ago. I mean, the game art program. And CG sort of serves as the basis for that. So today I hope to explain the most basic of differences between working in film and games, and by focusing on three separate areas: rendering of the visuals, calculations in the background, and the perspective given to the viewer. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard the term render farm before, but for those who haven't, a render farm is basically a cluster of high-power computers networked together to increase the power, which is then used solely to render CGI images for film. Now, even with that kind of power, according to IMDb, Pixar took 12 hours to render a single frame, one, of Sully from Monsters, Inc., due to his 2 million hairs. Now, think about that for a moment. A 90-minute movie at 24 frames per second that needs 12 hours to render one frame of one of its main characters. CGI film can do that because they have the time and resources it takes to both put in this detail and then to let the computers process it all into good-looking stills. Games, by comparison, are rendered real-time. This means they lack the luxury of a render farm making every shot look amazing. Everything you see on a game screen is being computed and displayed real-time, sometimes at up to 60 frames per second, usually with only one processor. Now think of the difference like this. That's almost like trying to sculpt Michelangelo's David with a jackhammer, and doing it again every single minute. There's a lot going on inside that Xbox. Now, there's also more than just the rendering differences. There's differences going on behind the scenes. In video, all of the power goes to making the still images look good. There's nothing really going on in the background. The animation, the rigging, the materials, they're all basically just numbers that say where something is at any given moment and what it looks like when the light hits it. In video, collision doesn't exist. A ball doesn't bounce unless you do it manually. In a game, you've got coding. You've got extra programming, you've got animation cycles running for multiple things on screen, you've got player input, you've got AI taking and calculating responses, you've got combat, you have potentially game-breaking physics engines. All of this needs to be read, calculated, and executed immediately, right in front of you, so fast that you lose sight of the fact this is all a computer. This is why frame rate issues exist in the first place. If there's so much going on that the machine must slow down to process it all, the immersion is kind of broken. Now that we've covered some of those behind-the-scenes differences, let's take a look at what we're supposed to see from our perspective. Once again, because CGI focuses on still images from a camera, the only thing that matters is what the audience sees on the screen at that moment. This allows animators to cheat in a way. Things that are not shown on the screen essentially do not exist. Artists can only model half of a room. Animators can leave a character's legs unmoved if the camera does not show them. Additionally, the animators know exactly how everything is going to move. They know what's going to be shown. Everything is pre-planned and will play on screen in a perfect, fluid, linear fashion. But, once again, games don't have that. Games are fully 3D worlds with fully 3D models. That means everything in a game must be complete and visible from all angles at all times. How would it look if your character had a fantastic sword swing from behind, but if you face the camera you could see that his arm is now penetrating his own kneecap? Plus, all the animations that come from a player need to be made to flow into each other. If you're playing a fighting game, your character needs to look fluid when he follows up that punch with a kick. If he's suddenly facing a different direction in a span of one frame, that's going to look really broken. Games need to take into account the fact that players are anything but linear when they're playing. So, in closing, I've told you about some of the main ways games differ from films. Differences in rendering, computational process, and perspective are only a surface explanation, but they are the reason as to why game art is its own separate path from CGI film. Now I hope you'll Go out and take a new look at some of the CG that we see every day in both instances and appreciate just how long it took to make the Avengers look as fantastic and awesome as it did, and at the same time just how fast your game console is actually running when it displays that shot of your winning headshot. I'm Ryan Mandseth, and thank you.